Donald is doing everything in his not inconsiderable power to remove as many non-white immigrants from this country as possible. He's ramping up arrests and deportations. He's overrunning major cities. He's threatening blue states with hostile takeovers. We've seen that he's more than willing to place military on the streets of our cities, which is unconstitutional. New data released by the New York Times show that after a summer blitz from ICE, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the deportations are at a new high. By the first week of August, deportations reached nearly 1,500 people per day, according to the latest data. They've ramped up so much that ICE now uses about a dozen charter planes every day to conduct deportations and move detainees around the country. That is almost twice as many as in January. And of course, it's not just criminals they're deporting. We know this. We have known this all along. Despite their protestations to the contrary, deportations of those without a criminal record have skyrocketed. It's increasingly clear that Donald's goal has nothing or very little to do with reducing crime. He likes crime. He's good at it. And he's certainly not particularly interested in getting criminals out of the country. If that were the case, he'd self-deport. The goal here is simple. Donald and the fascist Republicans want to make America whiter. Nowhere is this more clear than in the most recent raids conducted by ICE. On Wednesday, ICE officers detained dozens of immigrant workers at a warehouse in Edison, New Jersey, in what appeared to be among the largest federal raids in the state. News 12 New Jersey has more.
Your safety. Step away. Step away from the car.
This is video of Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents this morning coming out of the Smart Logistics and Freight Solutions warehouse in Edison.
Roll down the window. Be proud.
Employees and advocates with the organization New Labor telling News 12 an employee alerted a relative who's a member of the organization that a raid was happening.
ICE had busted in without a warrant and started to ask workers if they had papers or not. They began to forcibly handcuff everybody before even knowing if people had work permits, documentation, or any kind of citizenship.
The warehouse houses several companies, including Amazon, UPS, and FedEx. Employees left behind were visibly shaken, consoling each other, and some were seen leaving for the day.
That's not about deporting criminals. That's just about performative cruelty. That is about chilling people's willingness to show up to work or stay in this country. Donald and the fascist thugs at ICE are deporting our labor force. They're disappearing our neighbors and trusted members of our communities. And our country is already suffering for it, and it will suffer more. I am hard-pressed to believe that those so-called ICE agents are all officially ICE agents. They seem completely unwilling to make their identities known. They walk around with face coverings, and they refuse to show their IDs when asked. And it seems pretty clear that the ICE agents, or those pretending to be ICE agents, are there for one reason only: to remove as many brown and black people from our streets and our businesses as possible, because the Republican Party can only continue to exist in an America that has no diversity. That is indeed a permanently white country with an underclass of brown and black people who don't have the same rights as the whites. While Donald tries to meet his arbitrary deportation quota, ICE and DHS are ramping up operations with some flashy new equipment. Secretary of Homeland Security and cosplayer Kristi Noem, who is absolutely gleeful about deporting people and incarcerating them in gulags, is doing everything in her power to help Donald's policies along. Oh, I forgot to mention the most important thing about Kristi Noem. She murders puppies, also gleefully. Now, Noem wants a fleet of planes because, yes, the American taxpayer is not spending enough on this bullshit. Nome is pushing for ICE to use its new influx of funds, thanks so much to the Republicans in Congress who have ceded all of their constitutional authority to this corrupt executive branch, to buy, own, and operate its own fleet of airplanes to deport immigrants, making it that much easier for the agency potentially to double the number of people it deports each month. And the planes aren't the only extravagance that Homeland Security has bought in order to ramp up ICE operations. A brand new fleet of vehicles with Donald's name printed on the back of them has been purchased. Take a look.
DHS unveiling its new fleet as the Trump administration ramps up their crime crackdown. In a video posted on social media, you can see ICE debuting their new Ford Raptors and the GMC Yukons. In D.C., the vehicles are now, quote, iced out, with gold lettering that reads Defend the Homeland and President Donald J. Trump. The rollout coincides with the Defend the Homeland campaign, which is aimed at boosting recruitment and visibility of the department.
Could this be any more embarrassing and humiliating? What is wrong with these tiny, pathetic people? By which I mean Donald. Does he need his name on every fucking thing on the planet in gold letters? Apparently so. Why? Does he forget who he is? Is he afraid other people are going to forget who he is? You know, as pathetic as that is, right? It is not the worst thing about these trucks. The worst thing about them is that they exist at all, because there's no need for this nonsense. They cost $700,000 a piece. That is what our tax dollars are being spent on. Glorified pickup trucks that are literally in existence to make Donald feel better about how pathetic he is. All of this money, these millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars are in service to Donald Trump's fragile ego. That's it. Well, of course, and the cruelty. So while the Trump regime picks up speed with its deportation efforts, so too does the resistance grow. Across the country, Americans are fighting back against Donald, ICE, and the illegal deportations. One place where the resistance has been particularly strong recently is, not surprisingly, Washington, D.C., where the hostile takeover by the executive branch has been in full effect. Take a look at the D.C. residents protesting against ICE in this report from the D.C. area, WUSA 9 News.
Lucha Bright leads a group with their weekly noise demonstrations in Columbia Heights.
It can't be everybody's just going about their daily lives while more and more fascist attacks are increasing.
We've been on this corner every Wednesday for the last 3 weeks.
They chose this neighborhood where there are a lot of immigrants to stand up and fight back.
The point of doing it here is this is a target of the fascists. This is a place, I mean, already we've seen people being rounded up here.
It's disgusting what's happening, especially DC being known as a sanctuary city, how that's being just stripped away.
This woman, an immigrant herself, doesn't want us to show her face.
I've seen them everywhere. I'm personally even afraid to now take the metro and move around by myself. I move around now with my passport.
The federal surge and increased arrests have caused not only fear, but neighborhood events to be canceled.
We're being treated less than animals. I've been seeing people that look like me and my family thrown to the ground, begging just for any type of help.
They've called out these federal agents onto the street, and they've called out these National Guard troops onto the street as part of a show of force that is directed in a very racist way against Black people and against immigrants.
The obviousness of the horrors being committed in D.C., the fact that the Trump regime has so obviously crossed the line there, has inspired other communities across the country and more people are speaking out against Donald, against the Trump regime, against the illegal, unconstitutional acts being carried out by ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. From California to Pennsylvania, protesters are showing up en masse to fight against ICE and the illegal deportations, the disappearing of people who are not criminals, and the suspension of the right to due process. Even in smaller communities, Americans are showing up. In Danbury, Connecticut, a town with a population of just 88,000, about 100 people stood in the pouring rain this week with signs and umbrellas in response to immigration enforcement officers coming to their cities. As always, we need to remember that these forms of resistance are important and they are becoming increasingly important. We cannot allow the illegal actions of ICE and the unconstitutional agenda of the Trump regime to go unchallenged. We must stand up as one to protect our neighbors and to protect the people who are in this country simply because they want to work hard and they want to make a better life for themselves and their children. We need to stand up as Americans who understand that this is now and always has been a country of immigrants. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.